if you were waiting, we're getting started now. Uh, so so hopefully you guys are well. And yeah, today we're going to be talking, of course, about the tech news. And yeah, let's get started in a minute with the actual recording. So this is fully recorded, so we can actually edit this up afterwards and then put it out as a video. Now, if you're watching this, hello. I hope everybody's having a good day, having a good Friday, and yeah, let's just get started with the news. So, hey guys, welcome to the Sandro Linux community podcast. It is the 2nd of February 2024. So today there's some pretty bad news if you're a fan of the Nokia brand. So for all you Nokia fans out there, there's some pretty bad news this week. With HMD Global announcing that they're killing off the Nokia brand for mobile devices, so there'll be no more Nokia phone, brand. It will only be older devices that will have the brand, and the newer devices going forward will have the HMD Global brand. So why don't we go into a bit more depth with this story, guys? And maybe Piggis can give some thoughts if you want to. Also, hello, Piggis.
Oh, hello.
Yes, we forgot to do the hello to our co-host this week, and yeah. So let's get started with this actual story though. So of course, Nokia hasn't actually really been its own company when it comes to mobile devices for quite a while now. There is a separate Nokia company, but they don't actually do mobile devices anymore. They're more focused on the network and 5G side of things. And Nokia, as a mobile brand, has been a brand of HMD Global for quite a while now, with the licensing deal that they started with Nokia to make mobile phones under the Nokia brand, which came in around, I think it was around 2018 or so, and it apparently, expires in 2025, this licensing agreement. Now, according to this article, it was, 2016 that they first got the license to use this Nokia brand. And yeah, of course, they're going to prepare for no longer being able to use the Nokia brand because, the licensing terms would expire. And yeah, so if you enjoy Nokia phones, this is pretty bad news. However, HMD will of course still be making phones, so don't worry on that front, because they're just going to be branding this with the HMD branding now. So if you like the Nokia phones, they're not going away anytime soon. It's just that they're going to be branded HMD now. Now, of course, with the license going up for, when the license actually expires in, when the license actually expires, I do wonder whether there could potentially be another licensing deal with this mobile brand. Because I don't know the actual terms of, the licensing agreement, but I am guessing Nokia could sell the rights to their name on mobile devices after this deal expires to a different company. So maybe one day we could see a different company using the Nokia name. But for now, HMD is retiring the Nokia brand on mobile devices. Any thoughts, Piggis,
Mm.
on this story? Pretty big news. We've not seen Nokia go away like this before, and yeah, it's pretty big news in that sense.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, do you use a Nokia phone? I don't think you do.
You know,
But yeah, have you ever used a Nokia?
no, no.
Yeah, I've used one of those simple Nokia phones
Mm,
before, and yeah,
yeah.
they're pretty decent as like a first phone potentially. And of course, the Nokia brand, like as a brand, has really been very strong when it comes to the kind of simple phone brands. So for the kind of so-called dumb phones. However, they don't appear to have broken through as much in the smartphone market as they did back in the days when there weren't smartphones. And of course, with the competition from BlackBerry and iPhone, Nokia became less and less, and also, of course, Android really. Nokia kind of just became another Android brand. Of course, Microsoft bought Nokia, and then, of course, they tried the Windows Phone stuff, and that didn't work out. And of and yeah, basically, Nokia just became another one of those Android brands. Um, and yeah, they really haven't broken through in the phone market with the Nokia brand. Of course, back then they didn't, and they had to license it off to HMD. And now, of course, that was just a licensing deal. So we may see the end of this licensing deal when that comes up for expiry. Any thoughts, Piers?
Mm-hmm.
Any more?
No.
Okay, so that's our headline story there. And yeah, we've already seen, BlackBerry go away with the deal with, I think it was TCL, if I'm not wrong, making BlackBerry phones. Please do fact check me on that one, guys. I'm not sure if TCL were the ones making the BlackBerry phones for a while. But that deal, of course, expired, and then there was some company called, I think, Onward Mobility that tried to make a 5G BlackBerry phone, but nothing happened with that. So we're seeing a lot of these older brands kind of dying out at this point, and no company actually taking up the name. Anyway, guys, we should really move on here to the AI news. Quite a few stories this week. Um, and yeah, there's basically a lot of stories to do with AI and a lot of stories to do with this new Vision Pro headset. So yeah, that's just kind of what's in the news right now, guys. And yeah, so the first story we're covering here in the AI section is the Arc browser. Getting some new AI upgrades here. So of course, Arc browser are one of the newest browsers on the block. With a company behind them, of course, it being a Mac browser for Apple devices. And yeah, of course, they have a very specific market, but they have been bringing some interesting features to the table. Many people saying it's quite a productive browser to use, and they're just adding some more features here to make the browser a bit more, have a few more features. So, for example, there will now be a thing called live folders, where you can basically just have an RSS feed. You can put in different you can get different news and all sorts of different stuff on the web. So that's not really totally AI based. But there is also a thing called instant links, which is where the AI integration starts to come in here. So instant links is apparently, according to The Verge here, a way to use AI to skip a search engine. So, for example, if you just want to quickly find something to do with, the example they give here, the um, blank space performance from Taylor Swift's Sydney stop on the 1989 World Tour, which is totally something that happened. uh, Very strange example from The Verge. A bit of something kind of funny there, but yeah. So of course, this could be a good way of skipping the search engine. It using AI to try and find what you want. However, I could see this going wrong. I mean, what if it just pulls up something that you weren't expecting? Maybe something inappropriate. Who knows, guys? But this, I imagine this could potentially have some consequences where, of course, there's always um, the cases that happen where people have these very rare cases where something goes wrong and then it goes viral on the internet. So that could probably happen this. So maybe Art Browser is playing with some fire here, but I don't know. What do you think about this, Pigus? Do you think this is potentially a bit risky, having a way of instantly grabbing something from the web using AI?
Mm, yeah,
What?
because compared to like get other search engines, this is more like guessing. The AI is guessing, and it can be wrong.
Yeah, also, what if you just put in something to purposely try and get the AI to pull up
Mm,
something? Like,
mm,
I could see that happening. Maybe it will just tell you if you put in something that it just thinks might come up with a website that it doesn't want to show. Maybe, like,
mm.
can you, sorry, I can't complete that request or something. Maybe, like, one of those, AI things where it tries to stop the bot from actually, doing something that it shouldn't. Maybe that could be, a way of getting around
I
this,
mean,
but I
the
don't know.
problem is there's pretty much always a loophole to get around it.
Yeah, yeah, there almost always is. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Art Browser here. Personally, it's not my favorite browser for macOS or for just in general. But there are the fans of Art Browser, so if you are a fan of this browser, then you can get some extra features, I guess, here.
Mm.
Now, moving on to the next story here. So, ByteDance has unveiled the Cozy, which is um, or Cozy, which is apparently their attempt at custom AI chatbots. Um, so this is a new chatbot uh for the Chinese market here. So of course, ChatGPT and OpenAI services are not available in China, as Gizmo China says here. And of course, that does mean that there's a massive untapped market, which some companies have been trying to jump into, with Baidu doing some AI stuff, and now ByteDance here, trying to make an attempt. And of course, China is a massive market, and definitely, if they can capitalize on the Chinese market and bring in this chat AI model for the Chinese market for interacting with the AI in like Chinese, like Mandarin, then this could be a pretty big AI. Of course, not really for the worldwide market, but if you are in China, this could be a pretty big deal. However, I'm just guessing that there's not too many Chinese viewers of these videos, just because there's quite a bit of stuff you have to do to to actually be able to watch YouTube videos in China, like using a VPN, but or Tor. But maybe there's one out there. If you are a YouTube user from mainland China, then you can comment that you are, or maybe don't, because that might not be the best idea. But anyway, what are you saying, Piggis?
What? No.
Oh, sorry. I could see your voice activity go for a second there, so I thought maybe you were ready to chime in or something. But anyway, let's continue on here. So the next story here is about Google. So Google as a search engine is very big, of course. It's the biggest search engine in the world. And yeah, now they will apparently be displaying TikTok videos in certain featured snippets and AI-powered SGE things. So this is not really an official thing from Google here. Maybe they're just testing stuff out. But they have started actually highlighting TikTok results and TikTok videos in these certain instances of Google search. But maybe this is by accident, maybe this is on purpose. We can't really be sure right now, given Google haven't really given haven't really chimed in on this and actually told us whether this is an official thing. But it is interesting to see them let their competitor in on their search engine, because of course, Google are trying to compete with TikTok with YouTube Shorts, and yeah, overall they are not a company which is really would really be that happy to allow TikTok to succeed and watch YouTube Shorts fail, because they can make money off YouTube Shorts. But apparently they are now maybe going to be adding more TikTok links into results. So this isn't really changing how many links there are in results, but really whether they are allowed to be highlighted. So when it comes up with the top result, and there's a box for it or whatever on Google search, now apparently it can highlight relevant TikTok results. Do you have any thoughts, Pegasus? This is quite unofficial right now, but maybe this is a thing that will be announced by Google in the future, or maybe just done quietly.
I don't know. It kind of feels like pulling TikTok results would give very unreliable results.
I mean,
So like
TikTok
the
is of
results
course,
aren't like relevant.
yeah. Of course, TikTok is the top place for information.
Hmm.
Yeah, totally no
And
misinformation on TikTok. No, but yeah. So of course,
yeah.
there's the unreliability in that sense, but also the fact that there's just a lot of random clips that
Hmm.
could just pull up, especially given that they don't really have, the most clear titles. A lot of them. So maybe
Hmm.
you could just randomly get a TikTok video for the fact that you just looked up some random words or something. So yeah, I can see from that aspect why this may not be great for randomness, I suppose.
Hmm.
What do you think? Any other thoughts about this?
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the last AI story here before we talk about a bit of the mobile news. Some interesting stories on that side of things. So Bard is now apparently able to generate images. So previously, you could not actually generate images using Bard. It was limited to the chat capability and its integrations into different Google products. However, now you can actually, use. You can now apparently generate images using Bard. So, of course, there's been a big shift towards multimodal chatbots. Because of course people want to do all the different things with that AI chatbot. And yeah, of course, this is going to be the logical direction for Google to go in with their AI, given it's already a thing that Bing does, as well as other competitors such as OpenAI. So really, this is just them catching up at this point. Do you have any thoughts, Piggis?
Yeah.
Are you using Bard at all? Have you tried it since we last spoke about this?
No, I've never tried it. No.
No, I mean, I
I don't
haven't
know.
either.
It requires a Google account, right?
Yep, it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have a Google account, but I'm not using it for that. Yes, I don't really care about Bard that much. But, of course, you can use Bard, and this is a pretty cool feature if you are a fan of Bard, because, yeah, of course, you might want to generate images with AI, and this is just another way of doing so. Although, of course, you can just use local models if you have the processing capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, moving on to the
Yeah.
mobile news here, unless you want to say anything, because nah.
No.
Okay, so moving on to the mobile news here. So, Teenage Tinder-like app Wiz has apparently been kicked off the App Store, according to Apple Insider, over uh, sextortion claims. So we're gonna try and tread carefully here. But Wiz is, of course, so this is apparently an app that's a lot like Tinder for teenagers. However, they have had these allegations against them, and the National Center of Sexual Exploitation contacted Apple and Google about this app. And yeah, apparently Apple have decided to take some action here by actually kicking it off the App Store, removing it, and so has Google now. So that is, not good news for the app developer Voodoo. So Voodoo are an app developer that have made a number of games, and a number of different apps for Apple and Google devices. So this is pretty shocking for them to make an app like this. So you might recognize some of these games, to be honest with you. So I've played some of these personally. I mean, Paper.io 2, Hole.io, all of these different games here. You might recognize a few of them. There's a lot of different games which are quite popular on here. Um, and yeah, so they've been developing mobile games, but they also developed this app, which has now come under heavy scrutiny. Now, I don't know the reality of Wiz, given I was not a user of it. I mean, they may portray it in a different way, but yeah, I don't know. Have you used Wiz at all, Piggis?
No.
No, I haven't either. So if you have, you can comment upon it in the chat, or the comments if you're watching it afterward. If you're watching this afterward, but of course there's some pretty serious allegations being made by this organization here, and yeah, they should. This is some pretty bad news for the app developer, but also, of course, we do have to take these allegations quite seriously. Any more thoughts, Piggis?
No.
Okay, so let's move on to the next story here. One from GSM Arena. And, my dark mode is messing up GSM Arena here. Sorry, guys, about that one. But it is nicer on the eyes to have dark mode. Now, the Apple Vision Pro is now available. I actually thought about putting this as the headline story this week because it's big news for Apple fans here. So, if you're in Europe, if you're in the US, I'm not sure about all the different markets, but you can now actually order in most markets the Apple Vision Pro. So it's selling for $3,699 for the 512 gig model. and $3,899 for the 1 terabyte flavor. Now that is a a pretty hefty price for these these headsets. And from the initial reviews, it's quite mixed. People aren't exactly sure what the use case will be for this device, and using FaceTime with it is quite disturbing for some people. Potentially, it looks slightly strange, to be honest. And yeah, I'm not really sure how many people will be using this device. However, I'm sure there will be people out there who, decide to get this headset and decide to try it. And if you're a developer, this is a pretty interesting prospect because, of course, you could buy one of these headsets to develop some applications. And yeah, maybe you want to make some of the first apps for this potentially big platform in the future. However, there is always the chance that this could be one of the Apple products that go by the wayside. I mean, in recent years, Apple haven't launched too many products which have been kind of a flop. But of course, there is always the possibility that this could be a product line they don't end up going ahead with. Because yeah, the price is quite, it's quite shocking, to be honest. It is a bit too expensive in my opinion, and I'm not really sure what consumer would actually buy this. Any more
Yeah.
thoughts, Piggis?
Nah,
Yeah, I think it's being sold in Europe right now, because I looked at a listing and it seems to be sold on Apple.com right now, in all sorts of markets. So you can check it out if you want to, guys. But I don't imagine that many of you want to spend or have the money to spend $3,699 on a headset which only has 512 gigabytes of storage.
mhm.
Really, you could just buy a different
But
VR
it's
headset.
Apple.
But anyway,
It's Apple, so yeah, somebody is going to buy it
yeah, I'm sure there are already people
because
who've
it's
bought it.
Apple. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure in the time that we've been talking, there's somebody who's already bought one and made Apple, quite a bit of money. But, I don't think this would actually cost as much for Apple as, the actual price to the consumer. Of course, it won't. But, yeah, this is a pretty big new device for Apple. This is a new product line. We haven't seen a new product line from Apple when it comes to, a totally new type of device for quite a while now. Of course, the watch was a previous one, and that has been quite a success. But we'll just have to wait and see whether they can replicate that success with the Vision Pro. And yeah, this really isn't just out of the way and convenient like the watch. This is very much in your face, literally. So, of course, this is a very intrusive device. And of course, you won't be seeing people going around day to day with the 3 hour battery life, going around with a battery pack, walking around the street. I don't imagine seeing that anytime soon. But of course, Apple could come out with a new update to this, and maybe one day this will be more of a kind of desirable product. But for now, this will probably not sell too well. However, we don't know whether Apple might be able to break through here. Of course, there is always the Apple factor of the fact that they're just very popular, and people view their gadgets as very cool. And yeah, who knows what will happen here? But yeah. Anyway, moving on to the next story here. I've had it pulled up for a few minutes here. So Apple Vision Pro app pages have already started going live. There's only a few apps actually coming at launch. So here's a few that you can get. And yeah, this is really not the kind of app selection that would get any sort of mass adoption to the this platform. However, it is just a start, and as different developers get their hands onto this device, there will probably be more released for this platform. But for now, there is only around 600 native applications. Any thoughts, Pigus? This really doesn't seem to be too many for users who have spent over $3,000 on a headset. But those are just my thoughts, I guess. I'm sure I can't predict the Apple trend factor of just being able to release something and then people just use it because they like the look of it, and yeah. Who knows what will
But
happen here? I don't think even, people in the tech space are exactly sure whether this will be a success or a failure. Because it is Apple, so there's always the tendency towards success. But, of course, this could always just fail. Any thoughts, Pigus?
I mean, I guess like the apps that will be supported are most likely going to be more polished because the developers need to have a lot of money to even develop for it if they want to see how it works. Yeah,
Yeah,
in
maybe
practice.
not polished, but it may be slightly more higher end apps which are actually gonna cost. I don't know if apps might cost more money. Who knows? Because they do have to pay for the developers to have these ridiculously expensive headsets. And yeah, there is quite a high bar for entry here. Just like, Apple have really been setting some high bars for entry when it comes to developers. I mean, $99 a year just to have that Apple developer stuff, and plus a $3,000 investment, plus a, let's say $1,000 Mac at base, uh, plus a. Of course, you need the Vision. Of course, you need the Pro Display XDR, so you're going to be down in that. And no, you don't necessarily need that, but it's still a lot of upfront investment required to develop for Apple. So I think there's already that factor at play, but this might be even more kind of be even more of a factor when it comes to the Vision Pro. Now let's look at the next story here. So this is some pretty bad news for the Vision Pro users here. Oh dear, you cannot buy Apple Care. You cannot buy Apple Care on on this device, and without Apple Care, Apple Vision Pro repair costs can cost $2,399. So I'm just looking. I'm just looking at the glass here. I'm just looking at the kind of materials, and I just think smash. So I think this could end quite badly if somebody drops their Vision Pro, or maybe if they get into some sort of accident with it, because yeah, this is not an affordable device, and with repairs not actually being covered by Apple Care, this could be a very expensive device to repair. And Apple will have to do it themselves, obviously, because it's, an Apple device, I suppose. And they are very locked down when it comes to who they allow to actually repair their devices. And yeah, I suppose you just can't get Apple Care for this thing, even though you spent like $3,000 on it. Oh dear. Any thoughts, Pigus? They just don't want to be liable for these expensive repairs, I suppose. Okay, no thoughts then. Anyway, hopefully you should be covered by warranty for a bit, but this overall isn't a good thing for Apple Care customers. And, people who want this device. Now, the last story I really wanted to cover when it comes to this new Vision Pro is that there is actually already a YouTube app for the Vision Pro. However, it is not an official one. It reminds me a bit of when Apple actually introduced a YouTube app on the original iPhones, where you could actually use YouTube because Google weren't releasing YouTube on iPhone, and it was like a third-party application. Now, of course, this is actually made by a different company, so this isn't made by Apple. This is made by uh, Christian Selig. I'm gonna say Christian Selig. Hopefully, I didn't, mispronounce their name. But this is apparently the people, one of the developers of um, Apollo for Reddit, which was quite a big Reddit client for a while. And yeah, this is a new video player for the Vision Pro, so it will allow you to actually play YouTube videos back. No official support from Google yet. However, it is nice to see a third-party app developer step in and actually give some this new feature to the Vision Pro. It will come at a cost though. It will cost you $5. However, with that $3,000 that you've already spent, $3,000 plus you've already spent on the headset and the money you didn't spend on Apple Care, maybe you can spend it on this on this video player. So yeah, it's a cool looking app, to be fair. And of course, who knows whether Google might crack down more on um, third party video players in the future. They've already tried to make them more and more unreliable. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see with that. But do you have any thoughts, Piggith? I mean, this is a pretty cool app, even though it does cost $5. I think it's worth it if you get a Vision Pro, so you can watch some cool
Yeah.
videos. It would be nice, to be honest. Although, if you could just buy an Oculus Go, not Oculus Go, a Quest, and then just watch YouTube and pay only like $300 compared to 3,000. But hey, I'm not you. YouTube viewer. You can do whatever you want. You can spend $3,000 on a headset. I personally wouldn't, but whatever people want to do. you know, I suppose it's more private than the Oculus, but then again, it does cost 10 times the amount.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, maybe I'll take it. Maybe I'll take the privacy trade-off for something that costs literally, yeah, it's something that literally costs a tenth of the amount. Maybe I'll take it. What do you think, Piers? Would you take the trade-off of your a small bit of
Definitely, yeah.
privacy for literally $2,900 or something? If not more, actually.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I would personally, but then again, maybe, you
It dep-
care a lot about being an Apple person. Maybe you like all the Apple devices and the ecosystem, and you want to see what Apple wants to do with this thing. Maybe this is the device for you, but personally, I am not going to buy it anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, if $3,000 is something you can just throw away, then
Go for it.
obviously.
Sure.
Yeah.
However, then again, there's all sorts of ways you can spend $3,000. You don't necessarily have to spend it on a Vision Pro.
No.
Anyway, let's you could buy a like an insanely good PC for that much, and you probably get a lot more enjoyment out of it. Anyway, let's continue on here to the next story, to an Android story here. So the Nothing Phone 1 has finally got Android stable version of Android 14. So the open beta was already came out in December, and now it is officially available for the Nothing Phone 1. So they had to iron out some issues with the previous beta builds, but now it is apparently ready for prime time with this release. Any thoughts, Piggis? Do you have Android 14 installed or earlier version?
Yeah. I think it's a few versions old.
Yeah, I think I'm using a few versions old as well. Anyway, let's move on here to another story here to do with Android updates. So the OnePlus Open has finally got the Android 14 update. So the OnePlus Open is quite a high-end device coming from OnePlus. It's quite recent as well. So you would hope that they would actually, give them the update sooner. But now, you are getting Android 14. So I suppose that's in reasonable time. But yeah, of course, Nothing has already brought it to their Nothing Phone 1, and that's actually an older release. So OnePlus may need to up their game here a bit when it comes to actually updating their phones promptly. But sure, okay. Anyway, do you have any thoughts, Piggis, on this phone update?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think you would. This is a bit more of an interesting story. The next one here. So this is quite a sad story as well. We haven't got the layoffs and the no yeah okay. So we don't have the layoffs and the phone closure thing in the same section. So that's fine, I suppose. So the rugged phone brand behind Cat is apparently Cat phones and the Motorola Defy 2 is apparently closing down due to financial troubles. They could not service their debts here in the UK, the Bullet Group, and now apparently they are just going to rewind down. So this is bad news for fans of rugged phones. If you like the Cat phones, if you like the Land Rover phones, if you like those kind of outdoorsy phones which can take a hit and can even, be like, some of them could be run over by cars and stuff like that. So true ruggedness. If you like those kind of phones, this is pretty bad news for you. However, of course, if you are not a fan of rugged phones, this isn't much of a loss. But also, it's a bit of a loss for the UK as well. Another one of those brands that have had to wind down. The UK mobile space really hasn't been doing well with the main company that actually made UK based phones. I think it was Wiley Fox also had to wind down a few years ago. So overall, the UK mobile space isn't the most vibrant right now. Anyway, moving on to the gaming stories here. So, unless you wanted to comment on the previous story, Piggis.
Oh, it's just sad to see.
Yeah, it is. I never got to check out any of their phones, but they did look pretty cool. Anyway, let's move on to something also pretty negative. I was just about to say positive. It's not a positive. This is another negative. I'm sorry. We will get to some positive news with the next story here, guys. Don't you worry. But Tencent reportedly killed the unannounced mobile game Nier. So the article here has a bit of a joke. So near, so far. So Nier Reincarnation was apparently a game that was meant to be made. However, it shut down in April, and they just cancelled the entire game. So this is apparently what it was meant to look a bit like. It looks pretty cool, to be honest, as the mobile games go. Some cool looking landscapes here. However, it has already been cancelled. So that's bad news for fans of this, potential game, I suppose. Or future game. Any thoughts, Piggis? Another sad story here, I know. I will hit you with some more, fun, interesting news with the next one. As in not interesting, but like yeah, slightly more positive news. However, of course, this is quite negative. Anyway, any thoughts, Piggis?
Uh,
Yes, sad. Now, on from the sad into old, out with this old game and in with the new stuff here. So, the Vodafone Idea network is apparently launching 5G by July or August this year in India. So, if you're in India, then you can now apparently expect this release of 5G in on this certain network soon. So of course they'll be rolling this out. And yeah, apparently they're one of the last telcos in India not to jump on board the 5G bandwagon. And it's cool to see more 5G mobile providers. And of course, this is the logical kind of evolution of telecoms with 5G. So it's cool to see more consumers getting, getting the ability to access it. Do you have any thoughts, Pigis? Any major holdouts in Sweden when it comes to the 5G, and really should?
yeah.
What's the best mobile network in Sweden in your opinion, Pigis? I'm just curious.
I mean, I don't know. According to the
Hot takes.
statistics, it's
Yes.
it's Telia.
Okay, so you're saying they're the better. I'm not gonna try
Uh,
and put you on the spot here to name your favorite telecom provider in Sweden, and then you have to stick by. And no, you don't have to. But do you want to?
I don't have one.
Okay.
I just know I don't really like Telia.
Okay, you don't like Telia. So, is that like the state operator? Was that like the former state operator back when it was, run by the government? As in, is it that what used to be the state-owned thing? Is that like the main
I
mobile network?
think I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
owned partly by the Swedish government.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. Anyway, moving on to the next story here. So it's a USA story here. So Comcast has agreed to kill the 10G branding after advertising watchdogs in the US said it was misleading. So the National Advertising and Review Board found that apparently this could cause consumers to think that Comcast internet was much faster than rivals. So of course there's the G thing. So of course 5G, 6G, 7G. Eventually we will get to 10G maybe one day. But this actually referred to 10 gigabit, not to you know any sort of 10G mobile network or any sort of network like that. It is not 10th generation, it is 10 gigabits. However, this was too misleading according to the NARB, and they have had to go back on this marketing. Any thoughts, Piggis? This seems not really too deceptive, but maybe it is. I don't know.
Uh, I mean, by the looks of it, you could argue that it's like like they say, it's very
Yeah, it is very like it could be deemed quite maybe a bit like trying to
it's
catch people off guard, using
it
some
sounds
interesting
faster.
marketing. It sounds faster when
It
it
sounds
really
faster.
isn't. Although 10 gigabits is still a pretty fast speed, that I would say. Maybe not the most false advertising, but the NARB does beg to differ. And of course, I'm not really going to be defending mobile companies here, random mobile cellular networks who I have absolutely nothing to do with. if you get what I mean.
Mm.
What they want to brand things as. Yeah, they can do what they want, but the advertiser watchdogs will of course come after them if they see it as misleading. Now, moving on to the next story here. So, Verizon is switching to Google's Jibe, for RCS on Android. So, of course, we're seeing a lot of mobile networks such as O2 in the UK, and a few other mobile networks worldwide. So, as AT&T and T-Mobile also did this. So, Verizon is the latest one to follow this trend of switching to Google's Jibe for RCS. So this does seem like a massive centralization of RCS, to be honest. This might not be the best when it comes to, actually keeping a kind of keeping Google from having a monopoly here, with a lot of companies going to them for the RCS messaging. And what is meant to be an open standard may end up being a lot more closed than we initially expected. Do you have any thoughts, Pigus? No thoughts?
Yeah.
No problem.
I'm
So,
just thinking, like, at times that Google has gone down, it's seeing that like very important services will not be available then.
yeah. Yeah, if Google goes down, your YouTube's out, your Google Drive's gone, your Google Classrooms is gone, your, your Google RCS messaging is gone, all this stuff is gone. It really does show what kind of potential there is for a mass outage of online services, especially with companies like Cloudflare providing
Mm.
CDNs and DDoS protection to so many websites. So much of the internet uses stuff like Cloudflare or Google servers that if those kind of things go out or just decide not to host certain traffic, then allow certain traffic or whatever, then we could see some pretty big issues for the wider internet. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, so going from a slightly depressing story to a slightly uplifting one here. So Ryzen 700 5700 X3D is now available for AM4 sockets. So of course AM4 refuses to die. It is a motherboard CPU socket that's existed for such a long time at this point, even with AMD pushing AM5. So it's cool to see them keeping support for these older PC platforms. And for all you PC enthusiasts out there who are on AM4 motherboards, this is good news because this allows you to upgrade to a pretty good CPU. Now, do you have any thoughts, Biggest? Are you using a AM4 board right now?
Yeah.
From what
Yeah.
you talk about your build, it sounds like it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
what do you think about this story then?
I mean, I generally think it's good that you don't have to always throw out your components just to upgrade one thing.
Yeah, I think it's really nice just to be able to upgrade a few things in your build and not have to rack up too much expense at once. So you can just
Mm-hmm.
slowly upgrade those parts and get a different build throughout time. And of course, with ATX, you could probably keep the same case for quite a while. So that's quite nice, I guess. Anyway, moving on to the next story here. So this is the Linux section. A nice story here. I quite like to see these releases from Ubuntu Touch. A very cool project in my opinion. I very much enjoy, seeing releases from the Ubuntu Touch project, and now they've brought some pretty big updates here. So these are the devices that are supported by this new update, and it brings some pretty cool new features, such as being able to hide notification contents while you're while you're on your lock screen. So, of course, this could avoid some awkward situations if there are certain apps you don't want to give notifications onto the lock screen. So, not everybody can see what your apps are telling you. And yeah, that's a pretty cool thing for the Ubuntu Touch users out there. It's a thing we take for granted on Android, of course, but it is something that has not been available on Ubuntu Touch before. That's a cool feature to be added. Now, another feature is the lock screen, being able to show an estimation of how long it will take to charge your phone. Now, this isn't always the most accurate, however, it is nice to be able to see how long it might take for you to charge, and whether, maybe you're using too much of a slow charger, or maybe your battery's getting old. Who knows? But yeah, this is a cool feature if you care about seeing stuff to do with your battery life. And the final one, actually two more here, but one that I thought would already be a thing, given it had dark mode, is the ability to switch it in settings. So previously, you had to download a different app, a third-party app, to be able to actually enable dark mode. So it's not something you could toggle in settings. However, now you can apparently toggle it just in your system settings. No need for other apps. That's pretty cool. If you're a Ubuntu Touch user. And the final one here, so each contact can now get its own ringtone on Ubuntu Touch. So previously you could only put one specific ringtone, but now you can specify per contact what ringtone you want. And yeah, they acknowledge who made these changes and helped implement them here. So Mohammed, the Vanced Gamer, apparently did some contributions, and so did Lionel. I'm not gonna attempt the last name, but anyway, it's cool to see them acknowledge the contributions of others. And apparently now you can also get a double tap to wake setting persist. So even when you reboot your device, you can still use that double tap to wake feature. And of course, that's something that, is a thing that we can already do on Android. However, it is something that was not previously available on Ubuntu Touch. Any thoughts, Biggest? I mean, have you tried any of these Linux phone OSs? They seem pretty cool, but maybe not the most practical.
But it's cool to see like we're getting somewhere on the Linux phone market. Like
Yeah.
we're getting almost usable the devices for like daily use.
Yeah, it is cool to see we're finally getting some of these devices which you can actually use day to day. You can actually install some apps on it, and you have
Mhm.
all the kind of features that you'd hope to get, those kind of base features that they're starting to add more of. And yeah, it's overall making it a slightly more polished experience for those Linux phone users, and opening it up as a new option for those more privacy focused users and people who want software freedom. They can now use this new version of Ubuntu Touch. And of course, Canonical abandoned this years ago. It's not really been an official thing of Canonical for quite a while, but the community has kept up the work. Now, let's move on now to the next story here. So this is a Windows story. We've got one this week, and that is that apparently Windows is now getting a Linux-like sudo command. So this is a thing that's been spotted by Windows Insider in a Windows latest in a Windows Insider build. So, not Windows Insider, Windows Server preview build. So apparently this allowed a enable sudo in the developer settings. So maybe this is a thing that will be a thing for only the server version of the OS. But who knows whether this will come to the main consumer line or whether this will be a feature at all. But of course, if you really want proper sudo, you can only really use, actual Unix-based systems. But, this is a sudo equivalent, I suppose. Yeah. Any thoughts, Pigus?
I
Any?
like how they give you this really good pop-up message when you try to activate it, saying
Yeah.
it's really harmful for your computer.
It's like, you're
It's
gonna get
really
a
dangerous.
virus from using sudo. It's like,
I mean, if you get a virus, it's your own fault.
yeah. Not the fault of sudo itself, unless sudo has an export in it. But anyway, that's a different thing. But yeah, I don't see too much usage for this, but maybe it's nice to be able to use it. I mean, right now you have to, open it up as administrator, command line, and then open it up as, a normal user, and you can't just switch between them using sudo. So maybe this will be a nice feature for some Windows users. Anyway, let's move on here to the bad news. The sad news. The layoffs. So there's only one layoff story this week that I wanted to talk about. So that Sky UK is apparently cutting 1,000 jobs as broadband TV takes priority. So Sky Glass and Sky Scream, I nearly said Sky Scream. I meant Sky Stream. So Sky, of course, are focusing more on the IPTV side of things, and that does mean that they're cutting some jobs in other divisions. However, they will, of course, still be focusing more on these internet solutions, so that will be interesting. But this does suck for those who are, being laid off here. Anyway, you want to? Do you have any other comments, Piggis?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just bad news in general, to be honest. But yeah. But anyway, moving on to the next story here, the miscellaneous news. Some of the last stories we're covering today. So Snap is apparently recalling the discontinued Pixie drone over a fire risk. So the CPSC, the Snap and Consumer Protection Safety the Consumer Product Safety Commission is apparently, stopping Snap from selling these Pixie drones. They are actually recalling them now because of a fire risk with these batteries. Now, they've actually already discontinued this model. However, apparently there's still some out in the wild, and they decided to actually put out a product recall for these devices. So, of course, Snapchat's very popular with young people. Loads of people use Snap. And yeah, this is a pretty big fire risk for those who used this drone. Maybe just to take a few selfies. You don't really want your selfie thing to then suddenly combust. Not combust, but blow up. Yes, you don't really want that in a drone. So maybe it's best to recall some of them. Yes. Do you have any thoughts, Figures? It's pretty bad for Snap to be putting out drones with these kind of faults.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, another big story here. We're gonna continue on to a very big story here. One that could potentially be quite important in the future. Quite a breakthrough here. So Neuralink is actually running their brain chip on the first humans. So they're doing this before having a broader medical trial. So they're doing this for people with ALS and other conditions. I can't really find that in this article, but that is the case. And yeah, here it is. And yeah, so if you have those kind of conditions, then of course, this could be a massive life improvement, and this could be very good for those people. However, on the counter argument, of course, on the other hand, there is a possibility that this could go wrong if AI gets too, you know, too powerful, and somehow a mind control or something. Who knows? But of course, for now, it's just a brain chip that you can have if you, have these conditions, and it could be very good for those people. So I think it's good to see, regulators allowing these trials. However, we'll just have to see how this interacts with humans. I'm not going too much down the conspiratorial route here. I don't think, we're, we're going to end up with mind control or anything anytime soon. But, yeah, we will have to see what regulators do with this. Okay, so moving on here to the next story. Another big one here. Of course, there's been the post office scandal in the news. If you're from the UK, you might be sick of hearing about it. You might just, be really shocked by it. But of course, there was all those false prosecutions on, the fault of the post office and Fujitsu. And yeah, the Fujitsu financial chief has said sorry for the IT company's role in the post office Horizon scandal. So of course they were a part of the effort to actually make Horizon, which was accounting software, which basically made some sub postmasters in the UK end up on false convictions of not paying massive amounts of money that they didn't actually owe because it was an error in the accounting software, and it meant that loads of people went to jail who really shouldn't have, and it was a massive story in the UK, and it even broke some global headlines. So overall, this is a pretty bad thing for Fujitsu to have been complicit in. Of course, they really should have checked up on the software. So should have the post office. They have some blame here. However, we are now starting to see some action being taken over this after a lot of public outrage. Have you heard about this story at all, Pigus?
No, actually.
No, I mean, I saw LTT cover it a bit, which was interesting, seeing a kind of international tech news thing go over it. Of course, here in the UK, it's been all over the headlines, a lot of discussion on the BBC, on ITV, on Channel 4, all the big stations about this. And yeah, this is a pretty big story, and it is good to see the Fujitsu financial chief say sorry about this. But of course, a lot of people want to see some of the people who were to blame for this Fujitsu, for this scandal, to be held accountable in some way, maybe, face some sort of repercussions, more repercussions. However, I'm not going to give any comment there. But of course, they could fine them lots of money or something. But yeah, overall, this is a pretty shocking story, and a lot of injustice here when it comes to what happened, and a lot of kind of incompetence, I suppose. Anyway, let's move on to a slightly more cheery subject for Figma. It's really a cheery subject for Figma here, because apparently Adobe has no plan to invest in XD after they, couldn't buy Figma. So now Figma can, enjoy the fact that apparently, there's no real competition for them. XD by Adobe is not really being maintained anymore. It's on maintenance mode here. It's not really being improved. And Figma is, of course, quite a big, designing software here. And they are being seen to be establishing a bit of a monopoly here. Not really that many alternatives to them. And of course, Adobe pulling out of, trying to actually fully develop their alternative in the Adobe suite is a pretty bad thing for competition here. Do you have any thoughts, Piggis? Very niche, but, quite a big story if you're in that space. Okay, so...
I mean, I feel like it doesn't make sense for them to keep developing both, which essentially does the same thing.
No, but they didn't buy Figma.
Didn't they?
No. It was a failed bid to buy it. They're just stopping developing XD, which is their competitor. So this is basically giving the independent Figma, kind of a nice way of of no longer having that competition, I suppose. Anyway, let's move on to the next story here. So this is a big one, another big story this week, and we're even going to be finishing on a big one. So Google search cached links are no longer available. So, it's officially dead. So you may have come across these cached links before on Google. You click on something, it's not up, but they have a cached version for you. Now you have to rely on stuff like the Internet Archive, all of those different websites which archive sites, because apparently the Google cached links will no longer be a thing. This is pretty bad news for people who enjoy, the cached link feature. However, yeah, I suppose this will save Google some money. Do you ever utilize this feature, Piggis?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, it was somewhat useful sometimes, but now apparently, Google are just totally doing away with it. Most likely just a cost-saving measure, to be honest. Anyway, moving on here to the last story. Spotify has re-signed Joe Rogan in a deal that includes a return to Apple Podcasts. So for the Joe Rogan Experience fans in the audience, now apparently you'll be able to listen to him both on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. So you can listen to his interviews with different people on both platforms, and that's good if you enjoy Joe Rogan's content. Of course, it's not everybody's thing, but yeah, if you are a fan of Joe Rogan, then this is good news. Do you have any thoughts, Piggis?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's enough for today, guys. Thank you for watching once again, and you can check out the Discord at sandrolinux.com/discord. You can check out my YouTube channel, of course, right here, sandrolinux.com/YouTube. And of course, there's my regular website, sandrolinux.com. Do you see a pattern here? Maybe you do. But yes, anyway, guys, like, subscribe, and share. And, we'll see you hopefully next week where we'll have some more news. I'm currently editing up my EE review. I'm going to probably finish that up this weekend. So you can look forward to that. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching once again, and goodbye. You want to say goodbye, Pickus?
Bye.
That is a wrap. There we are, guys. There we are. And if you're on the stream, thank you for watching. This is some extra time. This is the overtime. The